When Burkina Faso's President Ibrahim Traoré speaks, the world listens. But this time, his words about Jesus stunned even Donald Trump. In a powerful and emotional exchange, Trump's reaction took everyone by surprise. This unforgettable moment is shaking both political and religious circles, leaving millions wondering, what did Trey really say? It started with a phone call no one saw coming. Donald Trump's assistant announced, "Mr. President, we've received a formal request from President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso. He wants a private conversation." Trump frowned. "Burkina, where?" he asked, but his eyes narrowed with curiosity. 2 days later, in a quiet, heavily guarded meeting room in New York, Trump walked in wearing his signature confidence. On the other side of the table sat Ibrahim. Traoré, young, calm, with a presence that seemed both gentle and unshakable. Trump extended his hand, and Traoré took it firmly. But what followed wasn't the usual small talk. Instead, Ibrahim leaned forward and said, "Mr. Trump, I didn't come here for politics. I came to talk to you about something far greater." The room went still. Even Trump's security detail exchanged glances. Then Ibrahim added, "I came to speak about Jesus, not religion, but the truth that changes men." Trump's smirk faded. He wasn't expecting this. From that moment, the conversation took a turn that would stun the entire world. Trump had met countless leaders, pastors, and diplomats. Most of them danced around their words, careful not to offend. But Ibrahim Traoré spoke like a man with nothing to lose, yet everything to give. "Mr. Trump," he began, "I've seen war, seen hunger, I've seen leaders rise and fall. But there's one thing I've learned. Without truth, a nation rots from the inside." Trump leaned back, arms folded, studying him. "This truth you're talking about," Trump said slowly. "You mean religion?" Ibrahim shook his head. "No, I'm talking about a man. A carpenter from Nazareth who changed the course of history without wealth, without weapons. Jesus." Trump chuckled lightly. But something in Ibrahim's steady eyes made him stop. "I've seen people survive hopelessness because they believed in him," Ibrahim continued. "And I've seen powerful men destroy themselves because they thought they didn't need him." The room felt heavier. Outside, the city roared as usual, but inside time seemed to slow. Trump's expression softened just a little. "What makes you so sure?" Trump asked. Ibrahim's answer would be unlike anything Trump had ever heard. Ibrahim's voice dropped lower and the room leaned in. "When I was a boy," he began, "our village was attacked. My mother hid us in a clay storehouse while gunfire filled the air. I thought we were going to die, but she whispered, 'Jesus will protect us.'" Trump blinked. He wasn't used to hearing heads of state speak like this. "We survived," Ibrahim continued. "Not because we were strong, but because he was." He then looked straight at Trump. "I'm telling you this because power fades. Money fades, but the love of Jesus never does. If the most powerful men on earth would remember that, the world would be a different place." Trump was silent. No clever comeback, no smirk. For the first time that day, his eyes dropped to the table. A journalist in the corner assigned to cover the meeting quietly scribbled in his notebook, "Something is happening here," and indeed something was. Something that would shake both political and religious circles before the week was over. For a few long seconds, Trump didn't say a word. The man who was always quick to respond seemed unsettled. Ibrahim didn't push, simply waited, his eyes calm, almost fatherly, though he was much younger than Trump. "You're saying," Trump finally spoke, "that the secret to leadership is faith?" Ibrahim smiled gently. "Not faith in yourself, faith in something higher. Gods, they destroy their people, but when they know their servants, they save them." It wasn't a lecture. It was truth spoken like a man who had lived it. Trump's hand tapped the table slowly, his eyes narrowing. Outside, rain began to fall against the windows, each drop echoing in the silence. A member of Trump's staff leaned in to whisper something in his ear, but Trump raised his hand to stop them. "Let him finish," he said. Somewhere in that moment, the air in the room changed. The meeting was no longer political. It was personal. For Donald Trump, personal meant dangerous territory. Ibrahim leaned forward, his voice barely above a whispered, "Donald, when was the last time you prayed?" The question landed like a stone in water, sending ripples through the room. Trump's eyes flickered, not with anger, but with something else. A memory, perhaps. "I don't talk about that," Trump said, his voice guarded. "That's exactly why I'm asking," Ibrahim replied. "Because men like you are told you can't show weakness. But prayer isn't weakness, it's strength." Trump looked down at his hands, silent. Even the journalists had stopped scribbling. Every camera in the room was recording, but nobody dared interrupt. "You think I don't believe?" Trump asked after a long pause. Ibrahim didn't answer directly. Instead, he told a short story about a soldier in Burkina Faso who had lost everything. His home, his family, yet still woke up every morning to pray for others. "That soldier is alive today," Ibrahim said softly. "Not because of politics, but because of faith." Trump swallowed hard. For the first time, his voice cracked. "Tell me more." Ibrahim nodded slowly, as if knowing this was the moment he had been waiting for. 3 years ago, he began. "I met a little girl in a refugee camp. She had lost her parents in a raid. She had nothing. No home, no food. But when I asked her what she wanted most, she said, 'I want Jesus to take care of me.'" Lips pressed tightly together. He shifted in his seat. "I carried her in my arms that day," Ibrahim continued, "and I promised her that no matter what, I would make sure she was safe. Today, she's in school, smiling again. And every time I see her, I remember, it's not me who saved her. It was the one she trusted." Trump's eyes glistened, but he quickly looked away. His hands fidgeted with the cuff of his sleeve. "Mr. Trump," Ibrahim said gently, "you have the power to change nations, but without love, his love, that power will mean nothing." The rain outside grew heavier. Inside, Trump's heart was beginning to crack open, and nobody in that room could have predicted what he would say next. Trump took a deep breath, his voice trembling in a way no one in that room had ever heard. "I remember my mother," he said suddenly, eyes fixed on the table. She would read the Bible every night. "She told me, no matter how high I climb, I should never forget the one above me." Ibrahim leaned in, listening intently. "She said, 'The day I stop listening to God is the day I lose myself,'" Trump continued. His words were slow, heavy, as if dragged from a place he had buried long ago. The room was so silent you could hear the rain tapping the glass like tiny drum beats. Trump blinked rapidly, fighting something. Maybe a tear, maybe a memory. Ibrahim spoke softly. "Donald, what if? God is reminding you of that promise today." For a moment, Trump didn't move. His lips parted slightly and his voice broke. "Then maybe I've been running for too long." Trump's hands gripped the edge of the table. He looked around at his aides and the cameras. Then, shockingly, he waved the cameras off. "This is not for the world," he said firmly. "This is between me and me. Him." Half the journalists looked stunned. This was Donald Trump, the man who thrived in front of cameras, now turning them away. The media crew hesitated until he gave a sharp nod. The red recording lights slowly went dark. Only a handful of people remained in the room. Trump turned to Ibrahim. "You spoke about that little girl, about that soldier, but what about you? Why do you believe so much?" Ibrahim's eyes softened. "Because I've seen miracles with my own eyes. I've seen death turn into life, hopelessness turn into joy. And none of it came from my power, only his." Trump swallowed hard, his fingers tightening. "I've made mistakes, big ones. I don't know if he would even listen to me anymore." Ibrahim leaned closer. "Donald, he's been listening all along." The rain outside grew heavier, rattling the windows. It was as if the weather itself was echoing the tension inside. Ibrahim stood up slowly. "Donald, will you let me pray with you?" Trump's jaw tightened. The proud exterior was still there, but something in his eyes had shifted. The room waited. Finally, Trump gave a slow nod. Ibrahim placed a gentle hand on Trump's shoulder and began to pray. Not in politics, not in rhetoric, but in raw, simple words. He asked for mercy, for strength, for guidance. As he spoke the name of Jesus, Trump's head bowed lower, his hands covering his face. Nobody in that room had ever seen him like this. His shoulders trembled slightly. When Ibrahim finished, the silence was almost unbearable. Trump lifted his head, his eyes red but steady. "You don't know what you just did," he said quietly. You've reminded me who I used to be." And at that moment, the entire week's events began to take a turn no one could have predicted. Nobody expected what happened next. A White House aide, thinking the microphones were off, accidentally left one still connected to a press audio feed. A single line from Trump's voice leaked to the outside world. He prayed, and I felt something I haven't felt in years. Within minutes, major networks caught wind of it. Clips of Trump's hushed confession flooded Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Comment sections lit up with one question: what exactly did Ibrahim Traoré say about Jesus? Inside the room, Trump was unaware of the leak. He was leaning forward, his tone unusually gentle. "Ibrahim, when you prayed, I saw my mother's face again. It's been decades." Ibrahim nodded. "Sometimes God brings old memories back to wake up the heart." Trump let out a long sigh. "I think my heart's been asleep for a very long time." The storm outside had not stopped, but something inside Trump had just started. By morning, news vans camped outside the building. Headlines flashed across the globe. Trump moved to tears by African leader's prayer. Ibrahim Traoré speaks of Jesus, leaves Trump speechless. Commentators argued endlessly. Some claimed it was a publicity stunt. Others insisted it was a genuine spiritual moment. In Burkina Faso, footage of Ibrahim's prayer spread like wildfire. People filled churches gathering to pray for their president's mission abroad. Ibrahim's aides urged him to make a public statement, but he refused. "This is not about politics," he told them. "It's about the heart of a man." Meanwhile, Trump's team was in chaos. Advisors begged him to give a strong press conference to control the narrative, but Trump sat quietly, staring out the window at the rain. "If I talk now, I'll lose what I just found." He knew the cameras would come. The question was, would he tell the truth when they did? On the third night, Ibrahim received an unexpected call. It was Trump himself. "Tomorrow morning," Trump said, "I want you to join me in front of everyone." Ibrahim hesitated. "Donald, this isn't about showmanship." "It's not," Trump said firmly. "If you believe what you said to me, then maybe others need to hear it too." The next day, the White House press room was overflowing. Journalists from every continent were packed shoulder to shoulder. Trump walked to the podium, his usual confident swagger muted. Ibrahim followed, calm and steady. The flash of cameras lit up the room like lightning. Trump leaned into the microphone. "Something happened to me this week," he began. "Something I can't explain, but I think you all deserve to hear it." Gasps rippled across the room. Everyone could feel it. This wasn't going to be just another speech. What came next would leave the world frozen. The room was packed, but the air felt heavy. Every journalist leaned forward, fingers hovering over keyboards. Trump glanced at Ibrahim, his eyes strangely vulnerable. "Before I speak," he said slowly, "I want you all to hear him." The cameras turned to Ibrahim. He stood without notes, his voice low but clear. "When I met President Trump," he began, "I didn't come to debate politics. I came to speak of something greater, the love of Jesus, who sees beyond power, beyond pride, and beyond our mistakes." The room went still. Reporters exchanged nervous glances. No one expected such words inside the White House press room. "I told him," Ibrahim continued, "that Jesus still calls out to men, even when they've stopped listening." Trump's gaze dropped to the floor. A single tear rolled down his cheek, and the cameras caught it. Trump stepped back to the microphone, visibly shaken. "I haven't prayed in over 30 years, he admitted. "Not since my mother died." Gasps filled the room. Admission was raw, unpolished, unlike anything the press had heard from him. But when Ibrahim spoke, Trump continued, I heard her voice again. She used to read me Bible verses before bed, and for the first time since she left this world, I felt like she was near." The silence was deafening. No one typed. No one moved. Trump's voice cracked. "You might think I'm strong because I've built buildings and made deals. But I realized I've been weak where it matters most." Ibrahim placed a hand on Trump's shoulder. "Weakness," he said softly, "is where Jesus begins his work." Without warning, Trump turned to Ibrahim. "Would you pray again?" "Right here." Gasps erupted. But the cameras kept rolling. Ibrahim nodded. He bowed his head, his voice steady yet filled with emotion. "Lord Jesus, we stand in a place of power, but we know power without you is empty. We ask for mercy. We ask for hearts to be softened. Ask for truth to be known." Trump's head was bowed, his lips trembling. Reporters, hardened by years of covering scandals and politics, suddenly wiped away tears. The room felt different, almost sacred. Outside, the moment was streamed live to millions across the world. People paused in homes, in cafes, in churches. This was no longer just a political meeting. It was something eternal. The conference hall in New York was crowded, but at that moment, it felt as if time itself had stopped. Ibrahim Traoré's voice had softened. His earlier points about justice, unity, and compassion had led to this moment, the part no one expected. He spoke about Jesus not as a political symbol, not as a religious tool, but as a man who chose sacrifice over power, love over hatred, truth over comfort. His words weren't polished for applause. They were raw, simple, and from the heart. "The greatest leader is not the one who sits on a throne," he said slowly, "but the one who kneels to wash another's feet." Donald Trump, sitting just meters away, leaned back, eyes narrowing, not in disagreement, but in thought. His fingers, usually busy with his phone, were still. His lips pressed together as if holding back something. The air felt heavy. Journalists stopped typing. Even translators hesitated. Traoré looked around the room. If a man with all the power in the world could choose to forgive instead of condemn, imagine what nations could do. Trump's gaze dropped to the table. For the first time that week, he had no words. After the session, a private meeting was arranged. Cameras were kept outside, but whispers leaked through the hallways. Trump and Traoré sat across from each other. No podiums, no microphones, just two men and an unshakable silence between them. Trump broke it first. "You really believe that about forgiveness?" His voice was quieter than anyone had ever heard. Traoré nodded. "It's the only thing strong enough to change a man's heart." He told a short story about a soldier in Burkina Faso who spared the life of someone who had destroyed his family, choosing to rebuild instead of retaliate. "He told me," Traoré said, "if Jesus could forgive those who nailed him to the cross, who am I to hold on to hate?" Trump's hands tightened into fists, not in anger, but in struggle. His eyes glistened. A deep breath trembled out of him. For a moment, he looked like a man carrying a weight only he knew. A knock came at the door. Aide asked if they were ready to leave. Trump waved them off, still looking at Traoré. "That's something I've never really thought about like that." The words hung there. Trump blinked hard as if to push back tears. But some truths can't be held back forever. At the end of the week, the video of Traoré's speech had spread across the world. It wasn't the politics people remembered. It was the humanity. Clips of Trump looking down, visibly moved, replayed on every major network. In the final press conference, a journalist asked Traoré what exactly he had told Trump in private. He smiled faintly. "I only reminded him," he said, "that no matter how high we rise, we all kneel before the same God." That sentence alone set the room buzzing. Outside, crowds gathered, Africans, Americans, Christians, Muslims, and even those with no religion, drawn not by political alliances, but by the rare sight of humility and leadership. Trump never publicly revealed what went through his mind in that moment, but those who were there swore they saw something change in his eyes. And maybe that was enough. If this story touched your heart, don't just watch and move on. Like this video because love and truth deserve to be shared. Comment below what you think Traoré's words meant to you. I'll be reading every single one. Subscribe so you don't miss more stories that will make you feel again, because the world needs more moments like this. Now tell me, what would you have said if you were in that?